Welcome, Eli, to the Tribe of Runners podcast. Thank you so much for taking time out of your crazy busy schedule and getting on here to chat on all things running.
So excited to be on.
For sure. So before we get into everything about running, let's hear about you outside of running. I know it's super hard to do because we're all consumed in running, but I know you have a lot going on in your personal life too. So tell us a little about yourself.
Yeah, probably too much. My wife says I have 8 million hobbies and I'm not allowed to add another one. So when trail running came along, it was like, like what do I have to give up? But no, I do a lot. Just because I don't know, I've always said like I want to squeeze as much out of life as possible while I'm here. So I try to get involved in a lot. So just aside from running, I enjoy cross training, like actually lifting some weights and stuff, which now supports the running. But completely outside of that, I hunt a lot. And that's like I hunt in a very active style. So that keeps me out in the woods. And I think that's probably why I loved and gravitated towards trail running as much. I did music for a while. I kind of out on my own as I had a band, and that was years ago, kind of right out of college. I still do serve at my church in music. So music, hunting. I'm pretty bad at golf, but I enjoy playing golf. So my brother-in-law, he plays a lot, and I'll go with him and just some guys around town. But yeah, just really a lot of outdoor stuff. I just love being outside, and we really try to encourage and push that.
Yeah, and that's awesome. And I know we had briefly talked before this about your social. I saw your social. I was like, dang, you're always doing things. That's awesome. And you're a big advocate on hunting, which is super, super cool. And I actually know a lot of people that are trail runners and really big into hunting. So it's super cool. I was like,
Okay.
I'm sure we'll chat about that. We'll get to that later. But it's super cool that you're so busy. And what gravitated you towards running? So, because you kind of mentioned you just recently found it and had to talk your wife into allowing you to get out there and be a runner.
Yeah, so I guess it's been a really long journey, and so I played football in college, and never ran other than like short sprints, and it was really conditioning style. And then when I graduated from college, I got into CrossFit pretty heavily, like competitively for about 8 years. And honestly, Liz, I think I just got burnt out on it. And so I was like, well, what can I do next? Because like I've got this itch that I need to scratch, and it's partly a competitive itch, but partly again, kind of what I was talking about earlier. Like I just want to be busy and try new things and do this and that. And there was a group of guys at my church that were like huge trail runners, and they had been doing these long distance races, and I was like mind blown because even though I was like an athlete before, the most I had done was like a 5K on a vacation, right? So like these really short, fast road runs. And one day they invited me to a local cross country track, which it's a 5K trail, but there's a lot of other intermingled trails in there. So you can create some distance rather than just doing repetitive loops. And they're like, hey, we're going to go do 7 to 9 miles, just depending on the time. And I was like, 7 to 9 miles? Like I've only done 3, like really fast. And they're like, no, you can do it. Just trust us. Come out there. So I went out with them and we did that. And it was like, from then on, I was hooked. Like that was in October of 23, 23. And then by December of that year, I had already signed up for a mountain half marathon. And
Okay.
then by the January of the next year, I had signed up for another trail half marathon. And then from then, it just went pretty fast. Like I didn't like waste any time. I was like, how fast and deep can we get into this and let's go. So
Yeah.
like you can imagine, like I was talking about my wife, she was like, you ran a 5K and then you ran a half marathon. And then now you're doing a 50K and now you're doing a 100 miler. It's just, I didn't want to wait. I was just like, let's go, let's go, let's go. So that's kind of how I got into it. And I fell in love with it. I actually ran this morning and I ran with someone new and he was like, so do you guys do a lot of road running? And I was like, I try to avoid it as much as possible just to be in the woods. No hate against road running. It's just, going back to maybe some of the reasons I got burnt out on CrossFit, and I've had a lot of injuries through Division I football and weightlifting. So I've had both of my knees have had surgery, torn meniscus. I've had back surgery. I've had my left shoulder surgery. So the road just really beats me up, and the
Mhm.
trail I find is less on my joints, and I can go further and longer, and it's just tends to be more forgiving. And I just like being in the woods. So that's my introduction into trail running, and I'm just like hooked.
Hooked. Yeah. So the real question is, because I know you did just run your first 100, which we'll get to. So when's your 200 planned? Are you going that far?
Honestly, no. I saw we talked a little bit before we hit record, but I saw like Ultra Sign Up just did a collab with you on Instagram on your 200 miler across Florida, and that one's coming up in I think November.
Yeah,
Um,
November 22nd, I think is when it starts.
yeah, I don't know that I'm ready for that this year, but no, yeah. What's next? I mean,
Yeah.
yeah. What's the limit now? It's just crazy, and I'm sure we'll get into this, but it's crazy like how much your body is capable of. So
Oh, for sure.
I want to push it and test the limit. So we'll see.
Yeah, definitely. When you asked me before, like you mentioned, like about the 200, I'm like, oh, he has the itch for sure. But
Yeah.
I'm very similar. I kind of jumped into this and went very really quickly. And honestly, last year was really quick for me in the sense of I went, 100 to 200 real quick.
Mm.
But it's not. I don't encourage it to everyone. Take the time, definitely get out there and like enjoy yourself. But Forgotten Florida is a very special race for me. It's actually my first 50 miler, and then I was out there crewing a buddy of mine, and that's where I ran into you.
Mhm.
And what caught your interest with Forgotten for it to be your first 100? I have to ask because I think it's a beautiful course. I loved it, and being out there for a second year, I truly enjoyed it. But what caught your eye with that race?
I think it was a couple things. Like I knew I wanted like so I did my first run bum race was Scotta Summit in North Georgia, which is a nasty 50K. Like it's 240 feet per mile, I think.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a ton of climbing. But I did that, and just I really liked Sean and what they had going on. And so I started following all their social media, and I saw that he was like, "Hey, Forgotten Florida is my favorite race that I do." I think he's at least said that once, as I know I saw it. He was like, "I love the course. I've fallen in love with it." And I told you in previous conversations too. I'm from Florida, from North Florida. Lived there for 18 years, so my brother still lives in Jacksonville. Every time I go back, it's like a piece of me is there, so I just can really relate to Florida as a whole. And so when I found out about Forgotten Florida, I was like, hey, this is 100 miler. This kind of like the next distance I want to do. And this is a flat course. So I feel like it's like a good introductory, which I've come to find out now, flat doesn't necessarily mean easier at all for many reasons. But yeah, I was like, hey, this seems just like a good way to get my feet wet at a crazy distance. So that's what led me to it, and I have zero regrets. Like it was an amazing race. I'd do it again tomorrow if they told me I could. Like it was
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah, it's a beautiful course. Obviously, I actually ran the first 50 miles, and then I ran the last 14 with Sean, the guy that was running. And it is a beautiful course. And I'm super glad you got out there and did it for your first 100. And you did it sub 24, which is phenomenal. So, congratulations. Such a huge feat. And kind of backtracking a little, what drew you to that 100-mile distance? Like, I think I know, just from the little bit that we talked, but like, really explain like what drove you to go, let me try 100-mile distance.
That's a good question. I think well, number one, it was just a challenge, and I was like, hey, what can I do? Like I've gone from 5K to 100 miler in less than 2 years, and like let's just push ourselves. But secondly, I think I just like felt again falling in love with the sport, and then once I get into something, I research like hard and heavy. Like I'll watch hours of YouTube content trying to learn everything I can about something. So I start seeing, this is a new space for me too. So I start finding out about who these people are, like the people who are doing really good at it, and like what are they doing, what are they training, what are the popular distances. And so you see like half marathon, 50K, 50 miler, 100K, 100, like you see these progression plans. And for some reason, 100 miles just stuck out to me. I think too, because like it's just something you can say, like it's something you can truly be proud of. It's just like I guess it's just the milestone that was like, just stuck out to me. Like, that's what you need to go try.
Yeah, it's like that one thing that you're like, "Huh, that seems impossible, but definitely possible at the same time." Um,
Right.
which which is awesome, and I feel like that's where a lot of ultra runners come in is, like, they want the challenge, which you mentioned right away, like, "Can I do this? Is this
Mhm.
something I'm capable of doing?" And then, like, also, I'm sure you can experience or if you have not, you will, is, like, that mental aspect of, like, getting out there and really going into that low, getting in that low, getting out of that low, then coming out and, it's just an amazing process, and I think all ultra runners get in that, and then they fall in love, and then we're addicted, and it's what we
Yeah.
do, we research the crap out of everything, and then we get into more and more and more and go further and further. But I love that, you've found this sport and are now dove in and completely obsessed as well as, like, all of us are.
Yeah. Yep.
Very cool, very cool. So, before you actually got to your 100, like, what were some of the concerns for you for this actual race? Did you have any, like, doubt or any hesitation?
So that's a good, like, there's a kind of a good story behind this. So I had been training. I had the 50K in October, and then the 100 miler was my next big
Okay.
event, February. So I recover quickly from the 50K, and then I start training for Forgotten Florida. And there was another race that popped up kind of last minute that Run Bum put on called the No Flow 50K.
Mm,
And I think it was December 28th in North Florida, maybe along the Florida Trail. I don't remember exactly what. I think it was in White Springs or something. But I was like, oh, that's great. Let's do that one, and that'll be a good. We'll get a chance to look at that terrain and see what it's like. And it's a good 30 miles. It's roughly a third of what we're gonna do. Less about a month from then. So that's what kind of we were working towards. And there's a lot of backstory to, like, the group. We took a huge group down there, and I'll get into that. But
for sure.
I was texting all those guys like, hey, let's run down and do this, because we're in Macon, Georgia, which would have been 3 hours from the no flow. But I would have already been down there for Christmas with my parents. So I
Mm,
was like, it's an hour drive for me. Like, y'all come down from Macon, we'll do this 50K, and it'll be great. Well, so that was the progression of that. To answer your question, the concerns, what came up was December 17th or so. So, like, right as we're getting heavy into the Christmas season, I got a fever, and 6, 7 days later, the fever still hadn't gone away. And I've
oh,
gone to urgent care twice at this point, and, like, they can't figure it out. None of the tests are coming back positive. And so I go back and they run more blood work, and they're like, you have mono. And to me, I was like, mono? Like, that's crazy. Like, how could I have gotten mono? This, like, I've heard that this, like, has long-term effects. Like, I knew people in college that had mono that were out for 6 months.
mm,
And I was like, I may have, like, I'm definitely can't do the no flow 50K anymore. And Forgotten Florida, I have no idea if it's even in the picture anymore. So some of the guys from Macon still come down and do the no flow 50K. My brother and his running partner from Jacksonville, they both do it. They loved it. My main running partner, Brad Berg, which I want to touch on him in a minute, he still drove down and did it. So, like, the guys still did it, but I, like, had severe FOMO, but I just could not do it. Like that day I was still running a super high fever.
mm,
So after 11 straight days of fever, my fever broke. And then so at that point I had lost in total about 2.5 weeks of training, like, in the
yeah.
middle of, like, a very important
Mhm.
block leading up to this race. So at that point, I'm less than roughly 3 weeks out from the race. And I'm like, I can't ramp back up to my pre-sick mileage this quick. So I really took the approach of, hey, I'm just going to try to maintain my fitness, get back to about a 30-mile week if I can, and then taper off after that. And so I bounced back really quickly after that. Was able to maintain, and then it ended up working out. But that was my biggest concern. Like, I knew it would be a mental challenge. I knew I would probably deal with, like, obviously everything just hurts. But my main thing was, like, I got to get this fever gone so I can get back to training and, like, feel good enough to even go into this thing. But it, like, from the beginning, it was like, I'm doing this. I don't care if I'm sick. Like, the week before, I'm not giving up on this. So really, that was the biggest hurdle to overcome. Just came out of nowhere, and we were able to recover from it.
Yeah, that is insane. So I assume you ended up really having mono and then it just broke a little quicker than typical and you were good to go? Have you are
Well, they told me, so I spoke with a lot of doctors, and even my athletic trainer from when I was in college. He helped me out a lot, and they were like, the fever can break, but the the body fatigue is what stays around long.
Mm,
So, which I kept telling everybody, I was like, if I can just break this fever, like I can deal with body fatigue. Like I'm not going to go out there and kill myself and, ramp up really quickly, but I just need to break the fever. So
mhm,
really after it broke is when things started to expedite pretty quickly.
that's good.
But the other concern with that, which I wasn't aware of, is that if you overexert yourself during mono or take on like a pretty impactful collision to your torso, your spleen has a really high chance to rupture during mono for
Gosh.
some reason. I don't know why it affects your spleen so badly, but that was the biggest concern. Is they were like, "Hey, we don't want you to fall on the trail and a root hits you and you be in the middle of the woods and your spleen rupture or overexert yourself." So I went and got several follow ups after I was I guess recovered,
Mhm.
and they were like, "You're good to go. Like we have absolutely no reason to think anything like this is going to happen now." So once the fever was gone, that got cleared, and I started ramping my training back up. I was like pretty confident, and we could go do this thing.
That's awesome, and what a relief because, like, I could not imagine getting so far into training and then, getting sick, but super, super lucky and, like, just amazing that you could come through and have no problem, continue push through for your actual 100 mile. And I love how you took the approach to going back into training. Like, you didn't push it, you didn't go from 0 to 100, you just took it nice and easy, and at the end of the day, it paid off, and obviously you're very fit, so you probably were like, I could think I can manage. The biggest part probably would have been in the mental aspect, like you mentioned.
Mhm.
But you kicked ass, so that's awesome. But you had mentioned a training partner, so let's hear about him.
Yeah, his name's Brad. So he actually went to high school with my wife, and I've been in Macon since 2012 now. So, but I'd never met him before. I actually met him for the first time January of 2024. We were doing a half marathon up about 30 minutes north of here in a really sick trail system, and we kind of separated from the group at the beginning. And there was like a 3 pack of us, and Brad was leading it. And I didn't know him at the time. I met him after, but there was a half marathon. He's gonna laugh when I tell this story and he hears this, but there was a half marathon and a full marathon going on at the same time, and we
Okay.
got probably 7 miles in, and we're moving pretty good. Like we had a really good race that day, a really fast race, and he gets to like a very pivotal turning point, and he goes straight towards the full marathon kept going straight. The half marathon split off,
Okay.
and I was like, "Hey, you missed a turn! You missed a turn!" And me and the other guy just kept going. And he never recovered from that to get back with our group. He ended up doing really well in the race still, but after that, I like reached out to him. Was like, "Hey, man, I think that was you out there. Like, we have a bunch of mutual friends." And then he's the one that really introduced me to Run Bum and all of their races, because he will do GDR for his 5th time and get his jacket this next year. So he's doing Georgia Death Race coming up. So
Very
he
cool.
told me about Scott Summit and got me up there, and he's probably who I train with the most in Macon. So he's been a really helpful training partner and just friend. He ran cross country in high school and just has a lot of experience with these long distance races. So we'll probably get like into the meat of the 100 miler at some point. But I couldn't have done it without him. Like there's no doubt about it. So we ran together the entire time, and he was like a pivotal part of it.
That's awesome. So cool. And I'm sure you've experienced this and like right there is part of it, but the ultra community is amazing. And it's just like
Yes.
that, like simply meeting people and then a little back and forth banter and like you guys are good friends and make great relationships, and that's one thing like I've honestly fell in love with the community, especially in the actually being out on the trail and like meeting people. It is
Hmm.
just completely different, and hence why I have this podcast and sharing everyone's story. I freaking love it, and I love that that's how you initially got into like more trail running, ultra running is
Mhm.
him, and that little encounter at half marathon for you. That's so cool. And
Mhm.
you had mentioned, so do you guys run a lot of races together, or do you just like train a lot together?
We train a lot together. I guess we would have run a little over 3 at this point together, or well, no, we've run more than that. I feel like 3 to 5 at this point, just spaced out. But we train a lot together mainly. But um, he's doing GDR coming up. I've got a 40 miler in a month. He will. That's the weekend after GDR, so he won't do that. We won't do that together. But he's got a 50K this weekend that I tried to make work, but I don't think I'm going to make it work. So yeah, we try to do a lot of races together. We have like I mentioned earlier, we've got a pretty big group here in Middle Georgia um, that does trail running. So there's a lot of road runners here, and then there's
Mm.
like us, the subset of trail guys. So we keep a constant group chat going between that group. There's 10 to
Very
12
cool.
guys in there, and we try to we'll send each other ultra sign up links like, hey, what do you think about this one? Or I can do like these 6. Can anybody do one of these? And if anybody can do, if more people can do one than the other, then we'll do that one. So
Very
it's a
cool.
pretty cool back and forth.
Heck yeah, that's amazing, and I love that. And like you said, you kind of mentioned, but like nothing wrong with road running, nothing wrong with the road runners. But the trail community is just so different. It's so much
Mm-hmm.
better. I hate to say it,
Yeah, yeah.
but that's super cool. So I know we're kind of all over the place, but let's actually get into like the 100 miler.
Yeah.
You get there. How was travel? Did you have any hectic craziness getting to Florida and getting everything set up, and then dive into all the good stuff with the 100?
Yeah, I'll tell a funny story of like the morning of, but it wasn't too hard getting down. So we drove down. My brother lives in Jacksonville, like I mentioned. He was doing the race, and then he had 2 running partners from Jacksonville also doing the race. So my wife, my son, and our dog, we go down and stay at their house the Thursday night before. Then the next day, me, my brother, and his 2 buddies, we drive down to Orlando to get ready for. We go to packet pickup and everything, and get ready for the next morning. Well, I think 5:10 a.m. was like the bus when the bus left.
Mm.
And you know all this if you ran the 50 this year.
Yeah.
So we I think he said, yeah, it is leaving at 5:10. And we were staying in Orlando, which was like 35, 40 minutes away, and we just didn't leave on time. Like we thought we had left on time, but traffic like just it was further than we thought. And so we're pulling up into the state park at 5:07, and the charter buses are like rolling out. And
Oh,
Sean, like, he's so funny. Like, we roll down the window. And they're like, "Hey," he's like, "Are you trying to drop off, or you need to park?" And we're like, "We got to park. We got to get on the bus." And he's like, "You're late." We're like, "Dude, I'm so sorry. Like, we just got to park. Like, put us on the last bus. Like, we're so sorry. We just need to get on the bus." So we got on the last bus and made it there. But that was probably the biggest like travel mishap we had, and it was so funny. Like I had nothing against Sean. I didn't take anything by it. Like he had a lot going on that morning. But
oh yeah.
yeah, we got on the bus and we got there, so we were able to start. But that was it.
Oh gosh, what a wild morning. But yeah, I remember when I did mine, they're very adamant. Like the bus leaves, they will leave without you, and there's no way to get to the start. I'm like, oh my gosh. But luckily you made the bus. That's
Yeah,
that.
the worst part of that is so we're all standing there at that Oviedo where it actually starts,
Mhm.
and 3 of the guys from our group chat are like, "Where are y'all at?" And we're like we're at the start line. Like, where are you at? And they were at the finish line where the packet pickup was. They thought it started there. And
Oh
we were like,
no.
no way. And that's a long way. Like that's a 35, 40 minute drive. Um, and they hurried and they made it there. And they basically entered the race where we crossed the highway, where the police officers had blocked off traffic, and you go into the single track for the first time. So Sean let them start there, and then they had to do extra mileage at the 40-mile aid station to make up for it. But yeah,
Wow.
they had a crazy story. But they started at the wrong spot.
Oh, I couldn't imagine. But that's awesome
Mhm.
that they allowed them to be in the race and like just make up some time because
Yeah, yeah,
oh, that is
that would have been a
crazy.
bummer.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So what was the experience for you with such a long start where I think it's like you don't see your crew for the first 50K? What was that like for
Yeah.
you?
So for me, I'm a I'm a very meticulous person, and probably like type A and very objective. And so I had gone. There's a website. I'm sure you're familiar with it. It's maybe Ultra Pacer
Yep.
or something like
Ultra
that.
pacer. Yeah, yeah.
Pacer Pro. I don't remember. But you can enter. You can download the GPX and you can enter. You can upload it, and then you can edit it to give like your goal pace or your
Mhm.
goal end time, and then it self calculates pace. And I had gone through each of the checkpoints and said, hey, this is how long I think I'll be here.
Mhm.
And so I basically created a cheat sheet and laminated it and had it in my vest. So
Very
I
cool.
knew when I needed to be at certain points in the race. And I think that helped me a lot.
Mm.
And also, you and I talked, I'm a nutritionist. So I was like, hey, I was looking at my splits and like when food was going to be available, when water drops only, like how much do I need to pack, like how much do I need to start with, and then how much do I need to put in my drop bags. So that, yeah, you're right, it's quite a big, like some of the biggest, the second biggest spacing I think between aid stations is right when you start.
Mhm.
So we were very adamant about not going out too hot.
Good.
I have another buddy that we go to church with named Caleb Yon. His in-laws put on the Pinhoti Series races.
Okay.
So yeah, so he had sat down with me a couple times and we grabbed coffee, and he had given me a lot of tips because he's done so many of these races. But he told me something really good that stuck with me. And he's like, think about the day as in yourself as a box of matches. Once
Mm.
you burn them, you can't light them again. So you don't want to be 50% through the race and have exerted 65% of yourself. So that I was like, dang, that really stuck with me. So we wanted to start out slow. My brother and his running buddies had a very strict run walk strategy. Like they started from the jump. Like
Okay.
they did it from the beginning. We didn't so much. We started with longer run intervals, and basically we're only walking. I wanted to eat every 20 minutes, and so we were doing like 18 on, 2 off, like
Okay.
walking. So that I was like every 20 minutes that will keep me on track to eat and drink appropriately.
Mhm.
And so that worked for a good portion of the race, definitely through the first couple aid stations.
Heck yeah.
So that's we didn't start out too hot because of what you mentioned. There's just it was a hot. We knew it was going to be a warmer day, and
Mhm.
the aid station spacing on the front end is not as favorable as it is later in the race.
Yeah, for sure. And I will tell you, so Ultra sign up, no, Ultra Pacer is amazing. It is a thing that I highly recommend. And like you'd mentioned, you can go in there and actually put how long you think you'll be at aid stops, how long
Mm-hmm.
you ideally want to be. You could do like a goal time to finish, or you could go in and
Mm-hmm.
do like a goal pace for it too. So I highly recommend it, and that's awesome you used it. I do the same thing. I laminate. I like Excel, so like I'll go into Ultra Pacer and then I'll also do Excel, and
Yeah, yeah,
just like
yeah.
make all the cheat sheets I can use and try to go off of it. Obviously, not every time everything goes as planned, but that's super cool that you got to use that and then had such a good tactic. I love the 18 on, 2 off, in the sense of run walk, and then making sure you get dialed in with nutrition. We will get into like what you do with your business and everything nutrition
Mm-hmm.
wise, but how did or I should say when did things kind of go south for you? How did you handle it and like what happened?
That's a great question too. So I guess I'll do it in two phases, like three phases, like nutrition and then body and then like mental. So nutrition was, like I said, I was pretty adamant that I was going to fuel appropriately because, and this is like for context, when I did Scottish Summit, I had to travel for work that week, and so it was hard for me to dial in as appropriately as I wanted to, like versus being at home. So I go into that race under fueled, under hydrated, and I started. That's a 50K. I started cramping at mile 11, both
Mm.
legs, like from ankles all the way up. Every like impact was just shooting cramps. And so I
Mm.
finished that race with like 19 miles of cramping. And I was like, never am I doing this again. So I went and got 2 IV fusions 2 weeks apart before Forgotten Florida. I was like super dialed, hydration weeks out. Like I said, I had my nutrition planned. But one thing I learned is I think it was about mile 61 I had been like very adamant about my nutrition strategy. And I got to mile 61 and I started getting really uh, nauseous.
Mm.
And that was 11 miles after the turnaround. So we got to the turnaround at like 6 p.m. So I don't even remember what pace we were running at that point, but it was starting to, I mean, it was definitely dark and starting to get like into the later hours, like probably near when I would normally go to bed.
Mhm.
And my friend that I referenced earlier, Caleb Yawn, who's done a ton of these, he said, my stomach always turns at night. It just happens to me. So I also had that in mind. But by mile 61, I looked down at my stomach and I was like bloated. And I'm like, I think
Mhm.
I'm over fueling. And like, I didn't think that was possible in a race like this, but I think I am. And so I was like, okay, I'm going to pop a ginger chew. I tried to do some broth and rice at that aid station. It was the fish hole aid station. They were awesome.
Yeah.
But I was like, this just ain't working. Like, I feel like I'm about to yak. And I was like, I know if I start throwing up, it's not going to be good. So going out of that aid station, that was a really tough all three phases, like
Okay.
nutrition, mental, and physical. Because when I would push my body, my stomach would hurt. Then the walk intervals, it would feel better. So I was tending to lean more towards those. But my running partner Brad, like he was feeling really strong then, and so he drug me through that section to the Joshua Creek aid station. But the ginger chews helped a ton. I completely underestimated those. I think I popped like a Pepto Bismol and then just let that ginger chew sit in my mouth for 20, 30 minutes.
Mhm.
So it helped a lot. Physically, my legs felt amazing. Like the entire race, I did not cramp one time.
Awesome.
My hip flexors felt good. Like my quad, I got like a trigger point in my quad about mile 40, and then
Okay.
it worked itself out. But my feet were like a big problem. They were hurting before the first 50K, and then they didn't let up. And
Mm.
it wasn't like they got worse. They just didn't get better.
Yeah.
But like more time on feet, like it's compounding a little bit. Like the pain wasn't necessarily worse. It was just getting more and more dull. But they hurt bad. So this kind of goes back to me getting mono. So I knew I needed a new pair of shoes for this race just because my
Okay.
other ones, the mileage was really high on them. And the only ones that were like low enough on mileage to make me feel okay and I was comfortable in them were my Ultra Lone Peaks. And like those are amazing shoes, but the cushion is just non existent.
Mhm.
So I, I had bought like 3 or 4 pairs to try online, but I couldn't test them because I had mono over Christmas break. So it was like a last minute thing for me getting another pair of shoes for this race. So I finally got some in and I ran 17 miles in them before the race. Felt good, no blisters, like everything was good. But I was like, I just don't feel comfortable starting in them because I would rather, I don't want to start in them and then they like rub me or cause some sort of weird thing and then I have to finish the race injured. I would rather start in something comfortable that I know is good. I think my Lone Peaks had like 180 miles on them at that point, so like still had some good use to them. So anyway, long story short, I wore those for the first 50.
Okay.
Then I changed into my new pair of shoes, finished in those. But looking back on it, I don't know that I would use Lone Peaks again for really anything over a 50K. They're great for as technical as that trail was, but for me, I think they just beat my feet up really bad.
Mhm.
And at that point, nothing was helping me out. So later in the I say all that to say later in the race, the physical part was pretty demanding,
Mhm.
but the mental side probably mid race was where it got the worst. Um,
Okay.
so the Josh, so you started at where did you hop on at?
Joshua Creek to the finish at the
Okay,
very,
so
very
yeah,
end.
that's 83 on. So Joshua Creek you visited it 3 times.
3
It's
times, yeah. I was there
disgusting. Yeah.
the whole 3 times
Okay.
for my runner.
Yeah. And so like I tell people like mentally Sean is just screwing you on that part on purpose.
Yes, yes.
But physically, it's such a nice break because it's limestone roads. I think it's like a service road. It's not a technical trail, and it gives you a really nice break on your feet.
Mhm.
But it's just like I gotta run to this, then do a 6 mile round trip, then do a 14 mile round trip, then I get to leave it.
Yeah.
So mentally, it was just like getting through that was pretty tough. But like I said, going back to that, my cheat sheet, as we were checking in, we were constantly 10 to 20 minutes ahead of schedule the whole time, which is
Okay.
not a lot of room to play around with, but enough that like we were keeping it, and I felt good about it.
Mhm.
Um, so going back to my, and again, I want to give like a huge shout out here because I couldn't have done it without Brad. And then his wife, Katie, is also a runner. She was working the aid station at mile 30, I think, mile 33. And then later she had planned on joining us from the same where you started at
Mhm.
Joshua Creek, mile 83 to the finish.
Okay.
So she joins us there. So it's me, Brad, his wife, Katie, and we walk all the way down that service road before you enter the woods because we're just hurting.
Mhm.
And we get into the woods and we're looking at the time and we're like we can't afford to walk anymore. So we start doing more run walk intervals and like we're really pushing the walks. And we get to Fish Hole mile 88, and we know that like this is the last push. But the sucky thing was like between Joshua Creek, Fish Hole, and the end, it's like a really, really technical part of the
Technical.
trail.
Mhm.
Like it's like it, like it's
Rutted.
thin. It's a single like pure single track, roots, rocks, hog wallows.
Oh,
Like it's
oh yeah.
nasty. And we had gone from like struggling on those out and backs from Joshua Creek running 6-4 splits, 3-2 splits, like just moving,
Mhm.
like steady paces. But we were like, I can't, like we're having a hard time just steady running. We went from doing that to running 5 minutes on 90-second walks, and our 5 minute runs were like a 2 to 3 minute pace quicker than we had been running before.
That's
So we
awesome.
pushed really, really hard from basically the entrance of the woods at Joshua Creek all the way to the end.
All the way.
Like we pushed really, really hard. We got to the that last little service road, and it was just like we made it. Like this is it.
Yes. Yeah, that's awesome. And it truly is. First, I'll say the mental aspect of like, I can only imagine coming to that Joshua Creek 3 times, and no matter what, knowing that ending part was going to be such a technical terrain to get to the actual
Yeah.
finish, and it was wild and in the dark. I couldn't imagine being 80 some miles in and actually out there pushing it. So that's incredible. And the feet thing. So I'm sure you'll experience this in more races, and I'm sure people have told you like it is very common to have painful experiences with your feet, but so early. Oh, I couldn't imagine. Like I have had my fair share of feet pain, and I really experienced it during my 200. And I know you kind of asked a little bit about it, but everyone asks, and I will always say this: the worst pain is the feet. Like
Yeah.
yeah, you get little knee pains or even like an ankle aches here and there, but like you said, it kind of works itself out. But the feet,
Mhm.
they don't forgive and they don't work out. They just hurt the whole time. But I will tell you, next 100 mile that you do, or whatever race you do, and the feet start to hurt, you feel it, and you're just like, I felt this before. It's okay. Like, and it's not as bad. Um, but yeah, the feet, it's relentless. But what an amazing push and an incredible finish. Like we said, you had finished sub 24, and was that a goal of yours? And congratulations on ninth place male. That too, that's phenomenal. So, what was your like true goal? And then obviously, like how do you feel post run and accomplishment?
Yeah. So that's a going into it like pre-mono. I'll kind of phrase it that way.
Okay.
I had like a crazy goal because I feel like if I didn't set something crazy for myself, then kind of just settle, right? So I was like, number one goal is just to finish, like not DNF. Like my stretch goal, I called it,
Mhm.
was 20 hours, which was 12-minute pace sustained, which is looking back now, that's really fast. Like the guys that did it under that is just some
Insane.
freaks. But
Yeah.
that was like my stretch goal, and then my like more tangible goal was do it in less than a day. Like I wanted to start in the dark and finish in the dark, so
Mhm.
sub 24. And then post mono, I was like 20 is not, I mean, there's no way that's happening. So let's go to the 24 goal and let's just make that work. So that's how I structured the cheat sheet card. I will say, go like one big thing I learned from the cheat sheet and the pace ultra pacer is you can put how long you're going to be at each aid station, and it says it categorizes it as the arrival time at the aid station. What I would do next time is, because I converted mine to Excel as well, is I would add the anticipated duration that I was going to be at that aid station, and then recategorize that column as my anticipated departure time.
Mm-hmm.
Because I would get to the aid station and be like, okay, I'm 20 minutes ahead of schedule. I can be here 3-4 minutes. But I didn't keep track of when I left.
Oh,
So I
okay.
would say, like, when do I need to be leaving this thing by? That way, if I get there 7 minutes before I need to be leaving it by, to me, that's like an easier way to process how long I can be at this thing. So I
Yeah.
would change that next time. But no, it was super helpful. Everyone makes fun of me my wife makes fun of me for how, like, she's like, yeah, he had a spreadsheet for this race too, because I'm like a spreadsheet guy. But it worked. It worked really well, and I like would highly recommend that. And I'll again, I have to give credit where credit's due. I had been researching this race, like you asked before, like looking on YouTube, like Forgotten Florida 100, like who has documented their experience. And one guy he ran the year before it rained really bad. So I guess the 2023 race. And at one point in the video, he pulled something out and read it and put it back. I was like, what was that? And then I started looking into it and
Mm-hmm.
found out about all this stuff. So I'm trying to always learn. So I'm
Mm.
picking up on like different things people are doing and the gear they use, the methods they use, their training. So that was, again, I can't take credit for the cheat sheet because I saw someone else use it and then I just dove into how that happens.
Yeah, and I believe the documentary is Michael Albert's, right? Do you
I've
know?
seen his. I've seen
Okay.
his. His is really good. I've watched several of his. It was another guy, Kratz, Ultra Kratz, maybe. I don't know. I'll look it up and send it to
Oh,
you. But
yeah.
it
It's no big
was a
deal.
good one.
Yeah, and
I've seen a
that's
lot of
awesome.
Michael Albert stuff. Yeah,
Yeah.
he's got really good content on YouTube.
Yeah, and he's doing, like, all the races out here, so I assumed, but yeah, there is a lot of good videos, and like you said, the best way to learn about a race is to go to YouTube and watch someone actually run it. It sounds super silly, but you truly do learn a lot, and the pacer chart, is amazing, super, super helpful, and I love
Mhm.
that, you're such a geek when it comes to it. I am as well. I love all of my data points. As you mentioned, like, you really try to stick tried and true to it, but there's occasion that it doesn't always work out that way, but an
Mhm.
amazing, amazing accomplishment for your first 100. And I love that you're still addicted and still ready. Was there any point when you were out there that you're like, I'm never doing this again?
Never. And even when I got done, like I was like, sign me up for next year. And it's so weird because when I did Scottish Summit, I literally, when I ran across the finish line, I said, why would anyone do this race twice? Just because I think if I hadn't cramped for 19 miles, I probably would have
Mm.
felt differently. But that's how I felt at the end of it. And I did not sign up for it this year. But Forgotten Florida, yeah, I would have done it the next weekend if my feet would have let me. But
Yeah.
yeah, I just loved every minute of it. It was, and that's another thing I really tried to focus on is to really enjoy everything out there because I had a little bit of a different perspective on it. I coming out of mono because I forgot to mention this earlier when you asked about my training plan, getting ready for it. There was the half marathon that I met Brad at 2024. I ran that race in January as well, last month. I was like, if I can get over mono, I need to go do this half marathon trail race before Forgotten Florida just to see how I feel.
Mhm.
And I woke up that morning and it was a high of 41 and 100% chance of like heavy rain. I was like, God, great. And so I'm leaving the house and I told my wife, Allie, I told her the forecast and like, this is going to be fun. And she was like, you don't need to think about it like that. You're finally healthy enough to run again. Like, you need to really savor this. And I was like, dang. Like, I thought about her saying that multiple times during that race. And that's the attitude I took to Forgotten Florida. Like,
Mm.
for me, just being able to show up at the start line that day was such a blessing. I was like, I'm just going to enjoy this. And I have a plan. We're going to stick to the plan and we're going to push really hard. But I just am so happy that I'm out here.
Yeah, and that's I love that she told you that because no matter what, as runners, like we do sign up for these races and we do them, and yes, we may be like, oh gosh, like horrible weather. Like the year I did Forgotten, it had poured and the swamp area was like up to my waist, but at the end of the day, like to have that mind switch of like your wife just telling you, like, listen, like you get to, like you literally just had mono, is probably what she said. Like you are finally
Mm.
healthy, you get to run, like take it and go have fun. And then for you to continue to use that for Forgotten, which is amazing. And it worked out. I mean, you had a fantastic race, you pushed through and kicked ass, like really, really did. Truly so proud of first 100 sub 24. Really
Thank you.
also after coming out of mono, which is crazy.
Yeah, it was. I was pretty surprised. Like I wanted. I think I was more surprised that we made the leaderboard. The leaderboard. But I was. I don't know. I feel like when you have your mindset on something and you put in the work, like the results just kind of take care of themselves.
Hmm.
So now, don't get me wrong. Like we were at a point where it was getting close, and we were like, we're not like as ahead of schedule as we used to be. So that's why I give so much credit to Katie and Brad for like Brad has just like I said, he's done a lot of these and he had the experience, but Katie really pushed us those last 17 miles, and we wouldn't have gone sub 24 without both of them. I wouldn't have gone it without both of them. But we worked really hard for it, and I was really happy to get that. And he said when we were running some of the intervals in that nasty section at the end, we had ran one in like a 9-minute pace, and I was like, guys, I can't do another one like that. Like I'm good with like tens, low 11s, like, but I can't do another 9-minute pace through this hog wallow that we just went through. Like, and they're like, okay, we won't do nines, but we'll keep going a little bit faster. And he said something to me that really stuck out. He was like, "How upset will you be if that clock says anything above 24?" And I was like, "You're
Mm.
right. Let's go!" Like, so we just like
Yes.
turned on the gas from then on. So
Oh,
it's
that's so
just
good.
such a mind. Like your mind traps you. It really does. Like your body is capable of so much more.
Oh yeah. No, and I love that you said that. And I've said this a million times, especially with my 200. I learned firsthand like how much your mind will take over when things get really hard. And then like, you finish the race and you get done and you're like, dang, I definitely could have pushed a lot more. And you're just like, but I was so in my head, like I couldn't get out of my head. And it is wild, but I love that you had people there to push you. And not, I
Mm.
haven't heard so many stories of this. And I know like I have had moments where a friend out in the trail or someone I've just met has really pushed me, but it's awesome to hear that someone like you knew pushed you because they could push you a little better. Like you mentioned, like
Mm.
they were pushing you when probably like someone that you don't really know wouldn't push you as hard, or someone that wasn't there for the full actual race would push you. And I love that, you did do it. And at the end of the day, you conquered your goal and got the sub 24 when there was a chance that you couldn't have, which is just fantastic. And it's a whole part of the community.
Yeah.
I know he's your friend and you know them very well, but you didn't know them at one point and then you grew to know them. And it's just an amazing, I love it. I love the
Yeah.
aspect of you having that friend, and then also all the people out there around you too. That's phenomenal.
Yeah. You make a good point there because like your pacer or your partner in this case, like especially if you train a lot with them, like they know what you're capable of. So
Mhm.
it's not like some random person. Like random people give a ton of encouragement. That's why aid stations are the best.
Yes.
But kind of when you're in between, people are, that he knows, like, dude, I know you've got more in you right now.
Mhm.
So let like make it happen. So those it's good to be, and I'm sure you do that with your athletes too. And when you're pacing people, like like how to coach them appropriately or how to push them in ways they need to go. So I
Yeah.
agree wholeheartedly with what you said. Like it was super clutch for them to be there.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, there are certain points where I am like crewing or pacing someone. I'm like, can I push them a little more? And I bet you, if I trained with them like you and your buddy do, there'd be no point. I'd be like, yes, like I can 100% push them harder. Like, let's go. But it is hard, and I literally just made a podcast and posted about crewing and pacing. Like, it is very hard to know your runner, and it's like one of the most things you need to know out there, and picking your crew and pacer is huge, which is a whole different story, but an amazing thing that you had the ability to have him out there and that you got to run the whole race with him and that he pushed you through, so that's fantastic.
Yeah. And
Heck yeah.
that was a PR for him too, as far as distance. He had like I said, he's done a lot of GDRs. So it was funny. We were actually talking about this morning. Like miles 65 through 74 would have been his peak.
Mm.
He was on those limestone out and backs from um, Joshua Creek. I was like, dude, you must be feeling good right now. Like you're pushing us pretty good. And he was like, no, I just know what it feels like. And, anything past 30 miles for me was new. So once
Mm.
we got past 74 for him, I was like, how you feeling now? He was like, I feel it.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
But
It's
he,
those
he
fresh
handled it
steps.
great. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. It's that those unknown steps and the, what is this going to feel like when you get to it? Which is incredible too. I should say another shout out for you doing 50K was your furthest distance and then 100 was your next, right?
Hmm.
Yeah, that's phenomenal. So super, super cool. Again, hats off, congratulations, amazing feat. So another topic, I know I don't want to like squeeze this in here, but you do nutrition. So tell us about
Hmm.
that. We'll kind of get out of the racing aspect. Like tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah. So when I graduated from college and like I said, I got into CrossFit pretty heavy, and obviously you want to like manipulate your body just to perform a certain way or aesthetically. And I just thought it was always like, hey, work out harder and eat less cookies. And like it works a little bit, but none of that is sustainable. So years kind of went on, and I just really started digging into the science behind food. And once I understood that and learned really about calories and the makeup of calories as far as macro and micronutrients, I was like, and then I applied that and it worked instantly. I was like, well, I mean, this is the ticket. This is the key. This is, this isn't a trendy diet. This isn't the latest fad. This is just like objectively how food works with the human body. And so I was like, this is applicable to anybody. And so I started telling my friends about it, and they started seeing crazy results. And they were like, hey, man, you should like start a business. And I was like, man, I never really thought I'd be a nutrition coach, but one thing turned to another, and I went and got certified as a nutrition coach through Precision Nutrition. And 2020 June of 2022, we started our LLC, and the business has um, blown up since then. And but for me, it all started with it all started with myself and like how can I
Mhm.
improve myself. And then really once I learned how sustainable it was, I was like, my light bulb moment was like, I'm never not going to eat this way. So if it's never anything I'm going to change, like, let me tell as many people about it as possible. So that was kind of the birth of it. And it's made a world of difference in running and just understanding what you need to perform in my everyday life, really.
That's awesome. And I love that it started with you. You know what I mean? Because you obviously are into fitness and, it may have been different throughout the few years, but you were like, if I want to perform better, I should probably fuel better. And,
Mhm.
did all the research and then got certified. That's amazing. And are you currently taking clients? Like, what's that going on for you guys?
Yeah, I'd say the core of our business is one-on-one nutrition coaching, and
Very cool.
then we have programs within that, and then we have some other what we call one-time services where we'll just do like just a phone consult, and then if you don't want to commit to 3 months with us, or like we'll do a grocery store trip with you, and that's just things that people are if they're less likely to commit to 3 months. Like, what can we help you with today? Like, what can we
Mm,
do one time for you that will again still set you up with like a sustainable foundation of education that's very different from what you're hearing on all the trendy stuff on social media. So,
yeah.
and then we actually just launched 3 weeks ago. Kind of my next step with the business was like, hey, we're teaching people how to eat. I want to also provide the food for them. So we
Okay.
partnered with a local restaurant that's has a really good following here in Middle Georgia, and we started a meal prep business. So
Very cool.
yep. So I guess our role in that was like the nutritional consultant to the plates. So the kitchen brings us recipes. We kind of work with them to tweak them and tune them to where they're more favorable for people's daily intake. And
Mm.
then we post a weekly menu, they order it, and then we take them to drop off locations. So we just wanted to make healthy food convenient for people.
That's fantastic. And I will have your link, your social, everything in the show notes so people can reach out and contact you. I love that you do this. And I have to say, I love that you've mentioned like no trendy diets, because like
Yeah. I
on
hate
social
that.
media, yeah, I can only imagine. And, like as a runner and a run coach, I've always been into fitness. Like the biggest thing people are always like, well, I'm trying this new thing. And I'm like, let me guess, you saw it on social media. And I'm like, it doesn't work like that. And I'm not anything like nutrition savvy. But I've known like what you put in your body is like what really benefits. It's more of the calorie macronutrients, like you said, and like dialing that in over,
Hmm.
like, oh, let me try this fasting trend that's going on, or let me try
Yeah.
this keto thing, whatever the case may be. But I love that, and I will definitely have all the links in there if people want to reach out. Hope you don't mind them, but they'll reach out to
Yeah.
you.
No, that's awesome. Yeah, I'd love it. We just want to prioritize, like, it's E3 nutrition, so it's educate, empower, elevate. So the basis of it is we want to teach you how to think about food differently. Because with a diet, like, sure, go try keto, but you're not going to do it forever. So when you stop,
Mhm.
what are you going to do then? And then the other thing is like, well, you should understand like why keto does what it does. Because if
Mhm.
you understand that, then you can know when to do it, when not to do it, when to apply fasting. Like all these trendy diets are not sustainable, and so it's
Mhm.
like, yeah, sure, go try them, but what do you do when it's over? So that's where we want to help people, is understanding the why behind food and how it works, and create a more sustainable like attitude towards it.
Yeah, and I agree 100%. And I love that you said it's like not something they're gonna do forever. Because a lot of
Hmm.
people, are always like, "Well, you eat so healthy. What's your diet trick?" And for me, I'm always like, "It's not a diet. It's a lifestyle. Like I eat
Yeah.
like this. I eat crazily the same foods almost every day except for dinner because I have dinner with my family. But it's just a part of knowing like what really works best for you. And I love that you're
Hmm.
educating and trying to work that out. I'm sure it's not easy with all the trends going on social media, but it's a great start, and I love that you're doing it. So we will for sure give a shout out, and maybe we'll have you on another time to talk more nutrition talk. I would
I
love
love it.
to.
I'm all for it. Yep.
Heck yeah, for sure, for sure. So I love the conversation. I have to ask. I know we kind of talked it beforehand, but what do you have planned for the rest of the year when it comes to running?
That's a good question. Well, we've got a busy spring coming up, and then after that, well, I've got the 40 miler next month.
Mhm.
Then I won't be able to run for a couple months, so just because some stuff we got going on. And then I would like to do. Another run bum race I'd like to do, at least one or two more of those. They've got the Wild Florida, and then they've got
Mhm.
the Cloudland Canyon up in
Mhm.
North Georgia. I definitely want to do another mountain race. I had previously looked at the No Business 100, which is, I think Hoka sponsors that one. It's in Tennessee, Kentucky.
Mhm.
The Pinhoti 100.
Mhm.
I'd love to get on the Pinhoti Trail. Like I said, my buddy Caleb Yawn's family puts that race series on, so that one's November 1st, Saturday, November 1st. So I'd love to do like a fall 100 maybe, or at least some mountain 50Ks, like one or two mountain 50Ks. And then I've never run a summer ultra. So
Okay.
growing up in Florida, like I'm really accustomed to the heat, and I would run in 90 degrees, 99 humidity, 10 times out of 10 over some of the runs I've done here in Middle Georgia when it's just 17 degrees and
Yeah.
freezing and just it's miserable.
Mm.
We go out and do it, but yeah, I love the hot. So I'd like to do a summer ultra just to test my body that way too, just to try to keep cramping under control. But yeah, definitely love to do two or three more this year.
For
I don't know
sure.
if another hundred's in the books, but if I were to target any, it'd be the No Business or the Pinhoti.
Very cool. Very cool.
Mhm.
So my next question for you is: because you've lived here, do you ever consider doing the Keys? Because that's a hot race,
What
but
is it?
the Keys.
Oh, I don't know about it. Tell me about it.
Oh, so it's road. That's my
Okay.
only. So it's the Keys 100. They do have a 50K, and you run from like depending on which race, like up like 100 miles away from the actual end of the Keys and to the zero
Wow.
marker, and but it's all pavement. It's a road
Yeah.
race, and yeah, so that's a little. I know you love your trail, but it's
Yeah.
hot. I've never ran it. I've only crewed it, and it is a miserably hot race to crew. So running it is, it is super, super hot. I believe it's in April, if I remember correctly.
Okay.
July. No, May. Gosh. Oh my gosh. So it's in May. And I will be there again this year to actually crew it
Oh,
and
nice.
or volunteer. I'm not too sure yet. I haven't signed up for anything officially. But it's a great race. I highly recommend it, but you'd have to do some good road running.
Sounds like it. I don't know that my body could tolerate that. That's a pretty rough one. Kudos to people who do that. I know there was I was paying attention to social media. There was a 100 miler in Las Vegas like last weekend, that some guys set some like crazy times on. So yeah, those are fast races. They seem like
Oh yeah,
a lot
for
different than
sure.
technical trails, but it's definitely a different challenge. But yeah, I'd love to eventually get out west to do, like, obviously, like everyone wants to do Leadville and Western States eventually, like to qualify for something like that and then get in the lottery and get chosen. But I think there's a lot of other like really good races out there that you can just go do. I know there's one in the Black Hills, South Dakota,
Mhm.
some other Colorado ones, and even in California. So I'd love to get out west, or I'd love to do like a desert one. There was actually one that popped up in Moab. Obviously not the 240, but there was I think a 50 miler that's coming up pretty soon that looked really fun out there.
Very cool.
So yeah, eventually I'd like to work west too
Yeah.
and do some of those.
Very cool. And I've been out to Arizona quite a few times. Crude and Paste, uh,
Mm.
Cocodona. I've ran
Oh wow.
Javelina. So I actually want to move out there, but I love that area and I definitely think you would love it, especially if you like want to do some technical terrain, but like have the
Hmm.
desert there. That's cool. But Cocodona has 125, Sedona 125.
Oh
That'd be
yeah,
something
that sounds fun.
yeah, and it's hard, it's a rough course, but it's beautiful, and it'd be a good challenge for you. I think you should look into it. But that's an amazing, and I know you're going to crush it, and I can't wait to follow along. A question that I like to ask everyone I have on the podcast, because I know we both have crazy busy lives. So I will let you go here soon. But the question I like to ask is, like, I love the ultra community. I love what it's about. I fell in love the instant I ran like my first ultra race, and a few people were like, "Hey, like, do you need this?" or "Tell me about your life." Like, I had some amazing conversations out there, and
Mhm.
it just is different, and I love it. But I made the podcast, The Tribe of Runners. With that being said, what does the word tribe mean to you within the running world?
It's so support, I think, is like how I would summarize the word. And like, if I had to like define my tribe of support, like it's so broad. Like you have my wife who like supports this hobby and this form of exercise and thing, like pursuit, right? And then you have your training partners who are willing to wake up with you early and run and support you. And then you have the group texters like, screw it, let's sign up for that one. Like, let's do it. You have people like you who are hosting like this platform and getting the information out there, and then a group like Run Bum who hosts the races. And I know Sean's really big about that too. Like when we finished Scottish Summit, we were under this pavilion, and he was like, "Everybody!" He like went out and stopped all the conversation. He was like, "Everybody, stop clicking up and go intermingle. I want you guys to meet each other. This community is awesome. I want you to expand it and join and meet people." And that's like, I love that. And
Hmm.
that's what kind of you're talking about, is like what you love about it so much. Because I think your tribe has to be big. Like you need the support, like mentally. You need someone that can give you good advice. People that, like in my case, are going to help me recover from mono and make sure that I'm ready to get to my next race. And again, people that can just sign up and do crazy things with you, because I mean, people do these things alone and they do them very well alone.
Hmm.
But I love the tribe aspect of it, like your brand, and it's very important. And so like I would summarize it in support, because like you don't want to run something when you know. I mean, you can do it for yourself, sure, and like prove it to yourself, but it's just so nice to know that so many other people are rooting for you in your pursuit.
For sure. And I'm sure you can relate, but like having everyone support you and encourage you is makes what you're doing so much better. No matter if you're doing it personally and you're like, I want to achieve this goal because I personally want to see what I can do. But knowing like your wife, your partner, your family, your friends, and all of them are either doing the stuff or helping you do it, it just makes a world of difference. And I love your answer. It's so true. It's the support within. It's amazing.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, like, so the 50-mile mark, like you had, that was crew access,
Mhm.
and I'm like running down that long road, and my wife, my 2-year-old son, and my brother's wife had made like signs for us, And I didn't know like they were going to do all that. I just thought they were going to
Mhm.
be there and hand me my next pair of shoes. And like I started tearing up. I was like, I got to get this off. Like I can't show up to them with like crying. So it was just so nice, like that support, that
Mhm.
tribe, to see that tribe there and like behind you, and every like the whole community like running into you after, like the aid station group, like you just every I've never gone to one of these things and not felt like a community aspect.
Mhm.
Everyone's just hanging out together. And there's a race that I'm doing in a month. Last year it was formatted a little differently. It was like a lollipop figure eight, 5 mile loop, 5 mile loop. In the
Okay.
middle of it was it was one aid station. And so they had a 10-mile run, a 50 mile, and a 100 mile. So the 10 mile, you just do top loop, bottom loop, but you come back through the main aid station. And it was a party. I mean, there were people everywhere. And that's a group called Revolution Running. That was the bootlegger. So this year it's formatted a little differently, but I love how like it just gave you energy. Like I can imagine for
Mhm.
those guys doing the longer races that day, like just every 5 miles, they knew they would get like that extra burst. So yeah, thank you for asking that question. I think yeah, it's just support and like such a good community of people.
For sure. And it's never like how should I say? You can never repay it. You know what I mean? Like it is
Mhm.
just the little things like you said. And then your wife and son and them making those signs like meant the world to you, and you have no clue how to repay them. Like aside from like telling them thank you so much and all that,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
it's an amazing thing, and I'm glad that you have found this sport. And thank you so much for being on the podcast. I definitely will have to chat after about being on about talking about nutrition.
yeah, for sure. Well, thanks for having me, and again, thanks for like hosting this. And it was nice meeting you, and researching you and seeing everything you've accomplished. And I know you just didn't you crew Deanna for the FKT? Were you on
For
that?
I was out there for like 2.5 days, which I am pretty sure she's already done. So
Yeah, she was supposed to finish today, so that's
yeah, I've
nuts.
been
Yeah.
creeping because it's just such a huge
And you were a
accomplishment.
part of that. Like I mean, you've
Yes.
done some really cool things. So I'd love to ask you a million questions, but
We'll do that
yeah,
off the
it's
podcast.
yeah,
Very cool. Well, thank you again so much for being on.
absolutely. Thanks.